Okay, welcome to the Prison Professors Program. I am Michael Santos, always striving to provide more information that will teach and inspire people who are living in challenging times, particularly those who are in jail or prison. And one of the things that we like to do is introduce new people who have just recently come home from prison, and we're going to talk about their experiences. And today, I'm going to be introducing you to John. John, why don't you tell our audience where you're from and what your experience has been in the Bureau of Prisons?
I'm originally from Pensacola, Florida, but I live in Dothan, Alabama. And what was the other part?
Well, so you're in the southeastern portion of the United States. How long have you been free from the Bureau of Prisons?
Exactly 1 week so far. I am at home confinement due to the CARE Act because I had pre-existing conditions. I have diabetes and high blood pressure, which deemed me worthy to go. I had a 14-year sentence, and I've only done about less than 5 years of it. So I had actually less about 33% of it.
So why don't you start by telling us what brought you into the prison system?
I had drug charges and I had a gun in the car, so I had two separate charges and got minimum mandatory for it, one for 10, one for 15. I got it reduced down to 14 years. And it was just doing something for a girl at the time. I should have known better. I accept what I did. Did I think the sentencing was fair? No. For what I did, I was just gave her money to let her do what she wanted to do.
So this was know that. Was this the first time that you experienced going into the criminal justice system?
Yes. I have no priors.
And where did you serve your sentence?
I started at Coleman Low in Florida. And then about a year and a half later, I went to Jessup Low, which is a satellite low, which means it was a camp at one point. And then once I got under the 10-year mark, they let me go to a Pensacola camp, which is at Softly Failed in Pensacola.
How difficult was it for you to transfer from the low security prison in Coleman to the satellite low in Jessup, Georgia?
That was something a lot of people don't experience. If you know where the Jessup Low facility is in lower southeast Georgia. Generally, they drive you in a bus, a prison bus, from Coleman to Tallahassee, where you have to wait for another bus to take you to either Pensacola or Marianna or Jessup or Atlanta. It's a distribution prison. This, however, they drove me to Tampa, where I got on a plane to fly from Tampa to Jacksonville to get on a bus to go to Tallahassee. So it was an all-day event. I get to see Con Air firsthand, and I never thought I would.
Well, you didn't get to go through Oklahoma, so you didn't get the full experience. But
we didn't know that at the time. We didn't expect to be going the wrong way when we got on the bus. Of course, they don't tell you anything.
But
you don't need to know.
What reason did you give your case manager to transfer from Coleman to Jessup? Because that's not always so easily to do. What happened?
That was a unique circumstances. I don't know the conditions, but they actually asked if anybody wanted to be transferred there because I think they needed to fill it up. And I didn't like Coleman at all. It's a very rough prison. It's a very unfair prison. The guards are very unkind to people in our situation or anybody's situation. It's overcrowded. To boot, it's the most crowded federal prison system in America. Where I was, I had over 2,000 inmates, probably designed for maybe about 1,200 to 1,500. So it's very uncomfortable, very violent, not a nice place to be.
And that's a low security prison, and yet you perceived it as being very violent. Is that correct?
I perceived it as being a medium security prison. Low? No. And Jessup Low showed you what a low should be.
So, but you didn't go to the regular Jessup. You went to a satellite low. which is even lower than a low. Now, walk us
That's true.
through. Does Jessup? I know it has a medium security FCI. Does it also have a regular low security or only a satellite low?
Only a satellite low and a camp and a medium.
So for those who
It
don't
used to
know,
be the camp.
right? For those who don't know what a satellite low is, a satellite low is where a person who has minimum security points but has some other factor, like maybe too long of a sentence, so they can't go to a real camp. They do it in a satellite low. And there are also a lot of immigrants or foreigners there, my understanding, or people that are not American citizens, but otherwise would be in a camp. Is that accurate?
Pretty much, but there are immigrants everywhere.
Sure.
That's not really.
But not in a
It's
camp.
not a. No, you're right about the camp points, and if you can't go to the camp, that's about as close to a camp's ideal system that you can get to if you have the points and then non-violent charges. And you can't be a sex offender. That was the only. No, that's not true. You can be a sex offender and go there.
In a satellite low, yeah. So
But they tell you can't.
okay. So then you were successful. Your points dropped sufficiently to go to a minimum security camp, or you got beneath 10 years. And
I came in with 1 point, which is pretty low.
It was just the sentence length that kept you in a low.
Yes, until you're under 10 years, and then you're allowed to go to a camp if you meet the criteria of points, nonviolent crimes, and whatnot.
And you got to the minimum security camp at Pensacola, which many people believe is a relatively good camp in the Bureau of Prisons. What was your experience?
It was. Back in the 80s, Eglin Air Force Base had a camp, and that was known as Camp Fit because it was really easy going. But that was back in the 80s, and my father went there for 2 years back in the 80s. Pensacola is not bad, but it's actually recently gotten worse. When I got there, we didn't have any cameras monitoring you. It's on a naval base, but it's almost non-functioning naval base. In fact, I think the Navy's pulling out and the BOP's taking over the entire base. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with the rest of it, but most of it they can't use. But from what I'm understanding, Regional is moving their headquarters there from, I think, Atlanta. So I've been told. So that's what's new, and it's going to be not as much fun for prisoners as it once was. And it is what it is.
I think as long as we're in this COVID situation, none of the prisons are going to be operating in the way that they once were. So you were there during COVID. Why don't you walk us through the process that led to your getting out so many years earlier?
Like I said, it was all about the CARE Act for the COVID-19. They had a series of conditions that one had to meet to be considered and put in. So Regional or Grand Central, the headquarters of the BOP, could approve. And then if they approved it, then the halfway house system had to be approved. They had to approve it for whatever reason. Maybe your house wasn't good enough to go to. Or maybe there was a felon already living there, a family member, and you can't be two felons in one house, especially current felons. Or I guess maybe under supervised release. Now, once you're done and you'd served your time, I think it changes the criteria, so I believe. But anyway, CARE Act allowed them to finally pick me. I wasn't even in the first 100 choices. And it was sort of sudden, and you sign all these papers, and they send them to Grand Prairie, and they approved you at counselor level. And she told me after I signed all that, all I am just waiting for a date, is which the halfway house gives you to report to the halfway house for orientation before you go home. And that's how it went. I actually got denied.
How
I signed my
long?
papers. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, so you're in there, you hear about Attorney General Barr issuing these memorandums. From that moment, did you
Yes.
personally do anything to advance the possibility of going home, or was this purely an administrative decision by the staff?
Purely, I believe. I think they had to go through medical records and see who had what, who qualified for it in their eyes, and of course what Secretary Barr decided to do. And then they sent the paper and the files to Grand Central so they get it approved. I guess I'm not sure the entire process. Like I said, I signed my papers and then I heard nothing. I kept waiting and a month went by and nothing. I kept having my girlfriend and my father call the halfway house because that's who I thought I was waiting to hear word from. I was in as much contact with my girlfriend to see if, because you have to have a house phone operating here. It's an absolute crucial thing. You have to have a house phone and be on. They have to know this. And generally, they have to come by and look at the property to make sure everything's good and there's no weapons in the house or anything that's would deny you. Well, they're so overworked, they don't do that. In fact, what we're doing right now is how she did it. She held up her phone and walked around the house and the yard so they could see through the phone what the house looked like, and then he approved it. And then, or actually, somehow, something or other, I got denied. And the halfway house told my girl told me. The staff, the counselors at the prison, never told me anything. And this was a week later, as I found out. And I don't know why. They won't disclose information to other people. So I wrote out what we call a cop-out, which is a form that we write questions to the counselor, give to them, and they're supposed to respond to it within 45 days. Well, I had a very poor counselor at Pensacola. She was hardly ever there. I worked at Unicor at the time, and by the time we got back around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody's left the building, the counselors, so we can't get answers, except maybe one day for the week where they extend their hours. And even then, maybe not. 2 weeks went by, and then I took another cop out with the same question and sent it to her boss, who was the boss over all the counselors at Pensacola. And I waited. Another 2 weeks went by. I wasn't hearing anything. Then I came back from Unicor one day, and on my bed was, here's your date. July 9th, I left Pensacola on August 19th. No answer why I was denied for the first place. No anything. Just a date.
Did you have to
So
go into quarantine?
No.
So they let
We
you
are
go?
Well, basically how we are now, we're in quarantine. When COVID hit in March, Go ahead.
On August the 19th, did they just let you leave and go home, or did they put you in quarantine first?
No. I just got up, turned in my stuff to be whatever they do with my bed linens and whatnot after that. They came and collected me. I went to R&D, signed out, got what I thought was supposed to be a supply of medicine to take home for at least a month, and they walked me out to the parking lot where my girlfriend was waiting for me.
And did you have any indication on that did you get clarity that you will be able to serve the rest of your sentence on home confinement when you left?
Correct.
So
as long as I don't violate.
There's no possibility of you going back to prison, regardless of what happens to COVID, as long as you comply with conditions you're serving your sentence at home.
That is my understanding. I was told, and I can't confirm or deny this, that the couple of camps up in New York were really ravaged by COVID-19. The staff or the inmates or both, and they shut down the camp and they sent all the uninfected prisoners on furlough to go home for the remainder of this crisis. And then when the crisis is over, they're expected to walk back into the camp.
Which prison is that?
I'd have to look it up, but it was, I believe, someplace in New Jersey or New York at least. I think there's one or two or three of them that did it, so I've been told.
I've not heard that.
I'd have to look it up.
So what has your experience been since you've come home?
There are a lot of rules, a lot of restrictions you're not allowed to do. You're basically in prison in your house. Yes, you can get a job and go to work and come home. They'll allow you to do that, depending on the job, I'm sure. And being a felon might be a hindrance to, hang on a second. It could be a hindrance to getting a job. It would help to have people that knew who you were. And but I don't have a problem with that. It's the other little things.
Like what? What are the restrictions that are making it difficult?
Your medical needs are taken care of. They will tell you to go to a doctor of their choosing and what day you should go, and you go. Medicines, all your medicines are prescriptions are taken care of through the halfway house. But it's the little things. We're at home. We need to go to the grocery store to get food. We don't have a chow hall. We need supplies, hygiene supplies, whatever. And they inform me that they really only are allowed, telling me I should only have to go to the grocery store but once a month. Really? And I don't have my money yet, or any money. And I wanted to go open a bank account now. My father sent me some money to open a bank account again. And they actually expected you to get a job first, and your first paycheck would be opening that bank account. This was an exception they made for me.
Are you
a lot of rules?
Are you reporting to a probation officer or to a Bureau of Prisons official?
Currently, I'm not doing either. The most I have during the COVID is they call me 2 or 3 times a day to make sure I'm really at home on the house phone that you're supposed to have. And if they say you're outside working in the yard, which you can walk up to 300 feet from your house before you are out of bounds, which is pretty much to the edge of the street and to the end of your someone's normal yard, a normal size house, you know. They can't expand it. If you say had a ranch and you had all that property, they can make allowances. But it's like I said, it's the little things. But if they call and I didn't answer the house phone, you better have your cell phone on as a backup if you don't answer, because they want to know where you are. You didn't answer the house phone, so it's, you know, you got to play the rules.
But it's better than being in prison.
Of course, you can have all the food things you want, and thankfully, thanks to COVID, getting stuff to you is not a problem. Before COVID, I don't think Walmart would deliver your stuff. We don't have Uber foods and Hub Grub and Takeout Star and all this stuff. So there's nothing really you need to go to a restaurant. Most of it come, you know, for a price you can get it come. And if you have family, they can go get something. Say, Marietta is actually about 20, 25 miles from me. There's a restaurant there that I like. my girl will go down there and get my food and bring it back to me.
So have you been positioning yourself to get employment yet? What adjustments have you made on that front?
I've contacted my old boss, and just through him, I have probably 2 jobs I could do. I could maybe do my old job, which was I am a Class A truck driver, among other things I've done in my life. I could astound you what I used to do, but if you wanted my resume, including 21 years at UPS, I like truck driving, but I am a college graduate. I don't do anything in my degree really, but I can get my old job back. Now, one of the rules with halfway house and being on home confinement is that you're not really allowed to go out of state, out of your area. I can go all over Alabama if I wanted to, but Dothan happens to be situated 20 miles from the Georgia border and the Florida border. My old job used to go to all 3 states. At first they said, nah, you can't leave the state. And then they told me, well, if the BOP approves, sure, you can get your old job back. Well, which is it?
So you're reporting to a staff member at the halfway house then, not federal probation,
Yes.
Not the Bureau of Prisons, but somebody who's running the halfway house.
Correct. You have a counselor at the halfway house.
And do you have to provide them with any type of financial reporting or weekly reporting or anything like that for case management?
Not to my knowledge. My paycheck is my paycheck. If I decide not to work, I don't have to work. My girlfriend is permanently disabled. She makes an amount of money every month, and I own this house, lock, stock, and deed, so I don't have to pay payments on it. So I don't. I'm right now in the process of repairing my house over 5 years of wear and tear and other problems I had with the wrong people being in my house while I was in prison. Some mistakes were made, and I have to deal with it. So that's what I'm doing, is dealing with that, making my house where it was at one point. But I will go get a job. Now, I actually had another guy talk to me about another job, about a route going from Dothan to Pensacola and back, and that's all it does. Well, that's actually very attractive, even though it doesn't pay a lot. Because, once again, there's nothing that says my father can't come and see me. He's elderly and in very bad shape, but he could maybe get out of the house in the same town he lives in when I'm there and spend time face to face, which I haven't seen him since February. So jobs, not a problem but you can get one.
How about your experience in prison? Did you have a good experience in prison? How would you rate did you serve 33 months, 40 months in prison?
Almost 5 years. I don't do months. I hate
almost 5 years. So how was your experience in the 5 years that you served?
It varies. It depends on the prison. Depends on the guards. Let's be honest. Prisoners hustle. They got things going on. So you can participate or you don't. But you got to work. Things possible. The higher the security rate, the less you can probably do. Camps, well, a lot of stuff's possible. But contraband is contraband. You get caught. If you get caught with a phone and the camp on you, no, they have to prove it's yours. They didn't just found it laying in something, but if it was on you, you're gone. That's a violation you don't return from anymore. Used to, when I first got there, you could have got caught, spent time at the county jail for 60-odd, 90 days, and you come back. It's no longer the case. You don't make mistakes, or you pay for it, for sure. And if you got a shot for contraband, phone, food, whatever, you also aren't going, if you could be considered for the CARE Act, you're not eligible anymore.
So it's important to keep a clean disciplinary record in order to participate and get advantage if an opportunity opens like one opened for you.
Yes, depending on how bad the COVID gets. I believe it's going to get worse before it gets better again. they might want to go ahead and clean out more people. They're looking now, they were just looking at minimum security people. Now they're looking at low.
Mm-hmm.
But you still can't be violent. You can't have violent crimes and things like that. There's still conditions, but more people are getting more shots at it. At least it was. They might not be going that way right now. I don't know. I've read recently, the other night on the internet, an article talking about home confinement and how the guards and the inmates feel unsafe with the present conditions and the implements of the BOP. They may make the rules, not all of them follow it like it should. When I left my room, I had 10 men in that one room. It should be less, be honest. Because we're going out to work now, a lot more. They're opening up. I was working at Unicor at Eglin, take a bus from Pensacola and go to Eglin Air Force Base every day, work 6 hours. People are leaving out of that base and going to other Air Force or naval bases and interacting with public. They could catch something, bring it back. You get on the bus, bring it back. Now the whole floor has it because everybody uses the same bathroom, the same showers. Hygiene is poor. We don't have hand sanitizers. We use the same masks for months. We don't change masks daily. I firmly believe someone's going to bring it in there sooner or later, one way or another.
Well, we'll see what happens.
I'm not there now.
At the end of the day, I'm glad that you were successful in being one of the fortunate ones who was able to get out of prison early. As I told you on our call, sometimes people contact our team and they're looking for information about what it's like to be in prison. And if they do, I'd love to be able to refer them to you. Is that all right?
That is fine with me. I'm a chuck full of knowledge, and I like to share when I can, help people when I can.
All right, John. Well, thanks so much, and congratulations on your release from prison. I know it's not as quite as free as you would like, but it's a lot better than standing up for count.
You're in your own bed. You get to eat free food. I mean, free world food. Let me be more specific. Get in the car, go to a job, and not have to make. But I was making at Unicor $142 a month. I can make that in 2 or 3 days here. It's a bunch better. You're taken care of. You got real doctors to take care of you.